Hi, I'm Larry Ripka, CEO of Valmark Financial Group, and I've been doing these Valmark Voice podcasts with various famous guests, and I thought it would be good for member firms and guests to hear from Valmark's President and Chief Operating Officer, Caleb Callahan. All of our member firms know Caleb, but Caleb, for those who are guests or don't know your background, how did you end up at Valmark?
Yeah, well, I think I'm less famous than most of your guests. But I came to Valmark. You hired me as an intern right out of business school at the University of the Back, 2004. So 16 years ago, I came to Valmark, started as an intern, worked in just about every area of the business, and over the years had the opportunity to take on more and more responsibility. That culminated 3 years ago becoming the Chief Operating Officer, and almost 2 years ago now becoming President.
Caleb, it's one of the best decisions I ever made, and you're doing a wonderful job leading our teams. I've told you often, I think you are a way better manager than I am, and I just love to be able to share some of the results. 2020 didn't start off very good.
Yeah.
I remember in March, we were, what's going to happen, and here we are, just past the halfway mark with what is turning out to be a great year, with life insurance up 65%, life settlements up 100%, asset values rebounding. What do you think looking at this?
Well, we talk a lot. We're fortunate for being in the financial services business. We have a pretty diversified hand. A lot of companies, it's predominantly in the fee-based business only, or predominantly in the insurance business. And we're fortunate that we tend to have a little bit of checks and balances. When one's doing well, the other's struggling, or when one's struggling, the other's doing well. But you're right, 2020 is one of those rare years where we're all doing really well. And it's a bit of a surprise given to how it started. But like you said, life insurance up 65%, life settlements up 120%, and the investments business up 5%. And that's building into that fact that in the spring, you saw almost
terrible first
25%.
Quarter billing. Yes.
So it is a good news.
It's good news, and we're blessed. And we thought back in the spring, what is it that's driving some of what we're seeing?
Yeah, well, if I knew all the answers, we would have this year every year. But there's the things you control and the things you can't. And I look at, I have to give credit to Washington. They did a good job, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, bipartisan support for some stimulus packages to stabilize the markets. That really was something that we didn't do and we benefited from. So I tip our hat to the leaders in Washington. I look at it very differently, each of the businesses. The life insurance business, I think three things. First, I think COVID has caused people to think about their own mortality.
We had that nice Wall Street Journal article last month that pointed to that very thing with some Valmark customers.
So you've got people thinking about their own mortality, which is good for life insurance planning. You've got, I think the biggest thing, and you always talk about this, low interest rates and the impact of carriers. That is the jet fuel for the engine. And as yields continue to be low, prices, we will look back and these prices will be as cheap as they could have been in a long time for life insurance. And not only cheap, you may not even be able to get large amounts of life insurance. So I think a lot of this is a fire sale, recognizing that low interest rates are going to cause either prices to go up and or scarcity of even being able to get large lump sums or death benefits. And then the third thing being an election year, I think tax planning. I think a lot of people are beginning to do contingency planning and say, boy, if we have this blue wave, what's going to happen to income taxes? What's going to happen to state taxes? I think that's driving insurance sales. Investment business, I guess I would say, I'm not a prognosticator on the markets, but we saw very, very few clients leave Valmark member firms through those very tough times. And I think, if anything, the role of the advisor in helping keep clients from making bad decisions. Valmark has a study that says the average investor earns about 50% of the benchmark, and it's just based off bad market timing and emotion.
That's Nick Murray's thing. If you look at the same fund and the actual people who hold it, they often get less because they panic in times like we had this spring.
Yeah. I think our firms really deserve the credit for the investment business. Let me shift gears and ask you. I talk about our business, how we're doing with existing firms. You work a lot with new member firms. How's that going?
Well, this will be our best year, actually going back maybe in 10. So we have more firms that have joined Valmark in the first half of 2020 as we did all of 2019, 18, 17. So it's, I think some of it is life producers recognizing in this low interest rate environment, there are no variable products or are no general account products that are viable. And it's made the variable product very popular again. We've had 4 or 5 people just this year who have re-registered because they recognize they are not able to compete without access to variable products. But it always comes back to keeping the firms that you have. And again, having a 99% retention rate makes it easier to grow. So it's keeping existing firms happy, helping them grow their business, and bringing in new firms that are attracted to our value proposition.
That makes sense. One of the things that we did a couple years ago was ask our firms, what is it about Valmark that makes you want to be a part of it for the long term? Maybe comment a little bit on those answers, well, how that ties in.
It's the same 3 things. It's stability, it's community, and it's innovation. And I look back when we started the broker-dealer in 1996, and everybody said, oh, you got to be bigger, you got to be bigger. You know, so MetLife had 9,000 reps and still was losing $100 million a year. And so many pure firms are owned by private equity. So I think people are attracted to a business that's been around for 57 years as a core group of advisors that all share that common set of values, and they're looking for stability. I think the second thing of community, it's not enough just to, people don't want to be part of a group with 10,000 reps and do everything online or over the internet. They want to have relationships with senior management. They have a peer group of people that have come to be their friends and trusted peers. And finally, innovation. I think even this year is an opportunity to demonstrate how a more nimble firm can innovate, have growth, switch systems over, switch products. It really is, we've been an example of innovation, whether it's regulatory or technology. And I think all of those things are important. But I think increasingly we're discovering it's this culture that people are drawn to of doing the right thing. And that's increasingly defining or setting Valmark apart from some of our peer firms. Yeah. Part of the reason I turned over day-to-day operation to you is I really believe you are a significantly better manager than I am. And we've seen improvement in the results from our team. We've been using this EOS operating system for running our team and our business. What are some of the improvements you've seen that translate to results for our member firms?
Yeah, well, you talked about culture with the member firm. I don't think it's any different with the staff. I mean, the culture that you have here translates into the culture that you have outside the business, and they have to be congruent. So for us, we put in place an engagement called the engagement multiplier. So for 5 years, we've been having our own team internally score themselves on engagement. And we last quarter set our record for the highest engagement score. It's continually gone up for 5 years, but we're at 90% engagement across the entire organization. So that's a huge piece of what's shaping our culture. The other thing is we were fortunate. We were recognized by the Plain Dealer, which is, obviously our large newspaper locally, as one of the top places to work in Northeast Ohio. That was done by a third-party study.
Based on the responses of our employees.
That's right.
Not just looking at our website.
Yeah. So it's been really embracing that culture and then seeing it recognized by the team and then by outside organizations. And then there's some, real technical stuff in there too. Our technology team was recognized by Cleveland Commerce Department as one of the top technology teams in Northeast Ohio. And it's kind of interesting for us. We're a financial services company, but we were recognized as being almost a software-like company with how we've integrated technology into the business. And then I think the biggest measure is the member firm satisfaction. You can say you win these awards, but the better question is, well, why do those awards matter? And for me, if you have engaged employees who are excited about coming to work, they're scoring themselves as we love this, we want to be here, that's going to translate into far better service for the customer. And they're going to wake up and say, how do we go help our member firms be successful? And I think that's why those awards are so meaningful, because what it means for the customer service.
Dan Sullivan, founder of the Strategic Coach, said, test all your ideas on check writers. And it really does come down to our member firms. And are we helping them grow their business? Are they staying? Are more people being attracted to us? Are they scoring us better? And that's ultimately the only way you grow. So it's great to get a validation of that. Caleb, having done this a couple of years now, what do you think are the one or two really key ingredients that we could pass on to our member firms of creating engaged teams?
Yeah, well, you've got the proverbial, right people on the bus, right seats. And it does all start with having the right people in the organization. You can have all the programs you want, and if you don't have the right fit people, it's not going to work. So
Yep.
It's cliche, but it's reality. The other thing I would say, and I give you a lot of credit for this, about 4 years ago, we took our core values and we really formalized them. We had always had them, but kind of in here. And we really challenged each other to say, why don't we memorialize those? Why don't we put them around the office? Why don't we actually specify what are they? And so together we came up with the 5 that we live by the golden rule. We tell the truth about everything. We simplify complexity. We build lasting and mutually beneficial partnerships, and we protect our innovative entrepreneurial culture. And so I think that step of formalizing it, but then not just talking about it, creating what we call core awards, where every month we're recognizing people who are living those out with actions. And I think that has really helped create the culture that these core values are real and not just something we talk about theoretically. And I think that's what's led to engagement. When people wake up and they go to work and they say, what I do matters because I'm helping bring about truth. I'm helping bring about simplicity and problem solving. I'm helping build a really important partnership that lasts. Or I'm problem solving and innovating in a way that is making a difference. I think that is what makes people come to work and say, it matters. I'm a necessary part of this team to advance what Valmark is doing. So I think of all things, that would be the most important thing to creating true engagement.
And hiring to that. We've had some successful people or people with good resumes or very talented people, and they maybe didn't always fit those core values. So saying, this is what we're going to hire to, this is what's going to determine whether we keep somebody on the team. You can't have outliers to that.
Yeah, and I would just add, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, a lot of people don't know this, but this is the 20th anniversary of really you pioneering, putting in the CFP program at the University of Akron, which we already established. That's where I came from 16 years ago. But when we talk about it does start with getting the right people. Part of the strategy for us of getting the right people was you have to get people that are out of school who are willing to accept our view of the world, to embrace these cultures and not come in with all their baggage and worldview of
bad habits.
Yeah. And so, I think that has been a key part. So part of these awards we're winning, I'm harvesting some seed that you planted, 20 years ago. So,
well, thank you. Well, Caleb, I think this has been just a great discussion that I'm sure our listeners have a little more insight into how we work together, how we help our firms grow their business. Any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I would just say that the work that you do matters. It's trite to say, and sometimes a cliche, but I look at all the data says anywhere between 50 to 75% of stress is related to financial decisions. And I think the opportunity that you have is incredible to make a difference. And Larry, we talk about this idea of that Valmark exists to bring the golden rule to life, and that is both in life, as in life insurance. I mean, there's a ton of opportunity to do the right thing. You talk about that often, but also to bring it to life, as in make it reality. And right now, there are a lot of people looking for answers and need direction amidst uncertainty. And there's going to be a lot of crooks, people who are out taking advantage. And I think it's an incredible opportunity for member firms who want to wake up and say, today, I'm going to run a business and embrace this opportunity to bring the golden rule to life.
Well, thank you. And thank you for joining us. And we really do count it a privilege to work with each of our member firms and a group of people who really do care about clients and want to bring the golden rule to life. Thanks for listening.